Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final installment of the Elevate Winter Series, Part 4, Health of Sex and Connection. I'm Elevate founder, Christina D. Eskridge, and I'm so excited to have you here with us this evening. Tonight, I join you from the unceded lands of the Munsee Lenape and the Wappinger people. We elevate and honor all Indigenous communities, the stewards of this land. As we celebrate Black History Month, we want to acknowledge that after there were stolen lands, there were stolen people forced to work this land and build this country. We elevate and honor the rich history of African Americans in the United States and around the world. It's been about a year since the beginnings of the pandemic. We've all experienced a tremendous collective trauma, and we're still working through how do we cope with this new way of life. Do you remember when things first started to become apparent last March? When we first started to experience cancellations of events, or we were hearing about a distant or even close friend or family member having a really bad flu? No matter where you are in the world right now, you have a memory of that moment when you knew that life was changing forever. In New York, we experienced the pandemic first through the tragedy of loss and then through community. In my neighborhood and in neighborhoods all over the city, folks leaned out their windows at exactly 7 p.m. each night, rain or shine, and banged pots and pans together and cheered for frontline workers, shouting, "Thank you!" We came together and did this only thing that we thought was possible in this impossible moment. I remember those nights, and I will remember those nights for the rest of my life. I'll also remember the birth of Elevate during this impossible moment. I'll remember each night of the winter series and this community that we've started to build over the last 4 months. We're also celebrating Valentine's Day, and we thought that we would give you, for our 4th and final part of the winter series, a play about dating, love, and the importance of recognizing self-love. Being You is an original play written by myself and co-playwright Courtney Bottomley. It takes us on a journey with Renee, a woman experiencing a lot of uncertainties during the pandemic. She's questioning being partnered, how to date, if sex is even possible with social distancing practices. This isn't everyone's situation, we know, but everyone has a story about how a relationship has shifted or changed during the pandemic. Everyone has questioned at one point or another, what's my next move? Everyone has learned all the Zoom features and yet still sometimes forgets to take themselves off mute. Everyone has felt lonely and disheartened by the weight of this pandemic. So let's hear Renee's story. And then in signature Elevate fashion, let's talk about how do we uplift ourselves, how do we uplift each other, and how do we stay safe and healthy while doing it. So, without further ado, I present to you Being You.
I'm wife.
Pandemic.
Other states.
Healthy.
I'm woman. The ecstasy that they have. Doubt.
Loneliness.
Extravagant.
Connect. Connect.
Okay, all right, ladies. All right, back in here. Back in here. I can guarantee you that I have less time than it takes to drink this glass of wine before I have to jet it. I want to hear from Miss Renee before that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Girl, we haven't caught up in forever.
Wait a sec. You are the one who organized this Gal Pal Pandemic Happy Hour.
The GPPH for time.
Is that really a time saver?
T-shirts.
Okay, all right. Ha ha ha. Yes, I did organize this lovely meeting of the minds, but I am one toddler meltdown away from a mandatory timeout. It's a rumbling volcano in here, and it will give little to no warning before it erupts, causing mass sweeping destruction. If the torment that is my child doesn't get me, the Legos I trip on during my escape will.
Sounds like everything's going really well over there.
I mean, it is, actually. Work's a bitch, though, and some clients are just not as receptive to the whole remote conferencing thing.
Well, it doesn't have that human touch.
Of course not. I'm doing the best I can. I mean, the whole firm is doing the best we can. Enough about me and mine. Renee, how are things? Anything exciting? How's your Mr. Outdoorsy? You been climbing any new mountains together?
Hold on to your butts.
He's good. Well, I assume he's good. He seemed good the last time we spoke. He broke up with me, and he sighed, like, with relief, so I guess that's been weighing on him.
Oh my god. Are you serious? When did this happen?
The other day, last week.
You were still in quarantine last week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was really ideal timing. I mean, it's not like I could, break out and run across town and punch him in the face. Well, I could, but that would have been irresponsible. I don't have COVID, but I am still a firm believer in following the state's guidelines when you've been exposed. And not that I would have punched him, because assault, but you get what I mean. Like, I didn't have enough to be thinking about. Now I have to deal with another failed relationship and the inevitable spiral of, what now? How's everyone else?
Well, I'm fine. The BF is fine. We've been doing a lot of the what the hell was your ex thinking and who does that to someone?
Even in a pandemic, people choose to be crappy to each other. All this romance and lockdown nonsense is just fodder for Lifetime. Do you remember when this all started? The UK was suggesting couples, even new ones, consider moving in together ahead of the quarantine.
Seriously, can you imagine living with someone you barely know?
Some don't want to be quarantined with people they do know. Raise a glass, friends. To those who are stuck, may they find their way out.
No, Daddy, I don't want the sandwich.
Well, what do you want then?
Grilled cheese.
Oh, no, ladies.
The sandwich.
No, Daddy, I don't want the sandwich. Grilled cheese.
Cadence!
Time. All right, who wants to host? Okay, Renee, you are hosting. And baby, your ex is an ass.
Damn Legos!
Okay. Love y'all. See you next time.
Oh, well, she's right about your ex. He's an asshole. But don't let it stop you. There are still so many people out there.
It's a pandemic, Sally. Not everyone is as down with meeting new people right now.
What is she supposed to do? Just waste the year away alone?
Do what the rest of us are doing, getting very reacquainted with ourselves.
Oh. You could try a Zoom date or two. It's low risk, right? And you get more control, the lighting, the drinks.
You've never been on a Zoom date before.
No, but I went on plenty of blind dates before I found my person. Isn't it all the same? Oh, and on that note, I'm off. The BF and I are doing a virtual cooking class thing. Love you guys.
So, do I refill my drink, or are you wrapping this up for tonight?
That depends on when Sally's booty call is getting here.
Okay, I have always been friends first.
And we love you for it. You are out there, not letting the pandemic slow you down, letting us, isolated singles, live vicariously through you. So who's coming over tonight? Jennifer the writer? David the makeup artist?
Okay, you could be out there too. Find your own writer and makeup artist. There are people out there that aren't terrible, you know.
But not good enough to keep around.
Well, I'm not worried about that. That's a you two thing.
Well, it's a hard pass for me. I'll let the two of you debate this one. Love you.
Bye. Bobby wasn't all wrong. Zoom dating is a good option for you.
I just don't know if I'm like ready to do that.
Oh, Renee, please. Your ex is over. Done. Don't even worry about thinking about him. This is a chance to find someone better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he wasn't the one, but he wasn't all awful.
Dumping you while you're in quarantine is all awful.
But like before that, I didn't think there was anything off. I mean, 6 months is a good amount of time to know someone, right? We both had good jobs. We like the outdoors. We love our families, similar political views. We both love cheese. Like I thought we fit.
Okay, well, don't let your desire to be partnered just push you towards someone who isn't really right for you. This is a chance to be open-minded, meet people. I'm gonna go be open-minded myself.
Oh, when are they coming over?
In about an hour.
It's plenty of time to clean your apartment. I can see all that laundry behind you.
Oh, okay. Well, if they're paying attention to my laundry, I'm doing something wrong.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, hi. Oh, wow. You're beautiful. I mean, you look beautiful. I mean, I am so happy we could do this. How are you?
Hi. Thanks. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Crazy cold day out, huh? I think it's in the teens. What did you do today? Did you have to leave the house?
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, yeah, it was crazy cold out, and no, I didn't have to leave the house today. I just worked from home, then played video games before I called you.
Cool. So, what do you do?
I'm an intern. I work at a company that designs video games.
Cool. Did you say intern?
No, yes. I'm transitioning to a full-time position after an internship. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped.
Sweet. Congratulations. That's exciting. How long have you been working there?
About 6 months, just since I transitioned from my scholastic endeavors. I took the internship more to test out the waters with this company than anything.
I see. I always say an interview is a two-way street.
So, what do you do?
I'm a principal consultant at Ernst & Young.
What is that?
Ernst & Young, it's a consulting firm. We help clients in Fortune 500 companies solve their problems. So, what else do you like to do?
Oh, stuff. Video games, hang out, stuff like that. What about you? What do you like to do?
I'm pretty outdoorsy. I like hiking. Right now it's been super hard with the weather so cold. But I've recently started playing the guitar. That's fun. What kind of music do you like?
Guitar, cool. Wow. Wow. I like all kinds of music.
Yeah, me too. Well, not really all kinds. I'm more of a soul R&B kind of girl. I like singer-songwriter stuff. That's probably what made me start with the guitar.
So I mean, like, you're just beautiful. What I'm trying to say is, well, I'm wondering if, are you, do you, are you looking for a relationship? Do you want to date me exclusively?
Oh boy.
Wait. Tell me again about the crack in his voice.
Okay, his voice did not crack. Okay, maybe it did, like a little. He was just very nervous.
Oh, like he was getting ready to ask you to prom.
Stop it! You're so mean.
Hey, I'm not mean. Dude lied on his profile and it was obvious. He gets the ridicule I am dealing him.
It wasn't all bad.
Well, congratulations, Renee. You got through your first Zoom date.
I did. I've got another one lined up in a few days.
Oh, courage, friend. If he shows up not looking like who he said he is, just sign off.
What? No calling them out on their lie or giving you some more interesting stories?
I don't need any more of that kind.
I mean, I got dumped a few weeks ago, but I'm already starting to feel lonely. And that guy, it's disheartening.
Yup. But you either play the game or you sit it out.
I just don't think that this has to be a game situation. Like, someone out there wants to have a normal adult relationship.
One would hope. But take my advice. If you start seeing red flags, bail. Immediately.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, all things considered. How are things? What did you do today?
Oh, I had to work, so it was all right.
What do you do again?
I work in sales at Bloomingdale's. It was a pretty standard day.
Oh, cool. Has there been a lot of activity lately? I'd imagine there'd be some fluctuation in business with the pandemic.
Yeah, it's been tough lately. We haven't had the same engagement as we would during this time of year.
That stinks. Is your team doing anything specific to try and increase sales engagement?
Well, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, you can't force anyone to come into the store and shop during a pandemic.
Right. Wait, I thought... So you're working in the store?
Yeah, I'm a sales associate at the Soho and Bloomingdale's.
Gotcha. I can imagine it's tough to try to get people to go into the store. I wouldn't. So do you fill online orders or anything like that?
Not really. Sometimes, but yeah, it's a lot of waiting around for people to show up and shop.
Yeah, gotcha.
What neighborhood do you live in?
Harlem. You?
I'm in Crown Heights.
Oh, long distance.
Yeah, I guess. But I'm getting ready to move in the spring.
Yeah? Where to?
Not sure. I like to be closer to work, and honestly, I need to move out of my mama's house sometime soon.
So you live with your mom?
Yeah, and her boyfriend.
Gotcha. Here we go again.
Well, good evening, Miss Renee. You are even more beautiful in person than on your profile. Oh, you scored on this one.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's very sweet. It's nice to meet you. Oh, so how's your day going? I'm glad it's Friday.
Oh, well, yeah, today was good. I had about 30 eye surgeries today, so I'm pretty beat.
Wow, 30 surgeries in one day. That's intense. Is that safe? I mean, I don't know anything about surgeries, but aren't they supposed to last a long time?
No, not really. I mean, usually I don't do so many, but I spent the last week in Mexico on vacation, so I had to double up on patients today and yesterday to get through the backlog. So 30 is high, but I handled it.
Well, you must be good at what you do. But did you say Mexico for
Oh,
vacation?
yeah. I mean, I had to just get away for a week to get a change of scenery.
During a pandemic? Don't you work at a hospital? Isn't it kind of dangerous to be traveling considering you're dealing with patients all day?
Nah, I'm super safe and I got the right equipment and I'm really good at my job. Plus, I have a specialty clinic that's limited traffic.
Except for your 30 patients today. Wait, are you messing with me?
What do you mean?
I mean, you're a medical professional. I mean, I'm sure you understand that COVID is something to take extremely seriously.
And I do, obviously, but I need to get away. I mean, I don't make six figures to stay my ass in Manhattan all year round.
I see. Okay. So what else do you like to do aside from travel?
Oh, I'm an avid reader.
Oh, really? What genre? I love thriller.
I like books on political and current affairs, memoirs, government relations, stuff like that.
Really? Do
Yeah,
you read for pleasure?
those are for pleasure.
I see. What's the last book you read?
Oh, John Bolton's The Room Where It Happened.
Ha! No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
What? What song is that?
What?
What what song is that?
It's from Hamilton, the musical. That's why the title's kind of funny. Okay, never mind. What did you think of the book?
Ah, I mean, it was pretty good, but it really just annoyed me though, because Trump is such a fucking prick. I can't believe so many people fucking voted him. But even after all the shit that he pulled, I mean, Republicans are just trash human beings.
Yeah, wow. I'm pretty liberal, but all Republicans?
Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're all basically racist, gun-toting religious assholes who are trying to destroy our democracy one piece at a time. But that's all going to change this year.
But isn't that the exact extreme generalizing attitude that that the Republicans use to apply to all Democrats, making them completely intransigent?
Wow. I thought your profile said you were liberal. Sounds like you're leaning a little right.
I mean, it's kind of funny that you're so liberal, but you're traveling during a pandemic and then saw patients that same week.
Look, I'm getting pretty tired, 30 surgeries.
Yeah,
Um,
I can imagine that you're tired.
so I'm just gonna lay it out there. I think you are smoking hot, and use the word intransigent, so I know I could work with that. So, you up for meeting in person? You want to come to my place, have some dinner, see where it goes?
What? You want me to come over to your place? You just said that you were in Mexico and then saw 30 patients today. Do you get
Come on.
tested often?
Yeah, things are fine. I get tested every other week. I mean, come on, maybe we should talk politics and get heated. Hot and heavy. Come on, seriously. I'll show you what I'm working with.
Okay, all right. Wow, I was pretty clear in my profile that I'm socially distant and it'll take me a little
You,
bit to warm up to an in-person meeting.
oh no, you won't regret it. I'll put it on your right.
Okay, that sounds tempting.
Come on!
What's that? A doggy? Oh, you need what? I'm sorry, I have to go. I'm being called. Have a great night. I hope you get some rest after your 30 patients, which I think is likely too many to safely execute. Chat soon!
She was into me. I'm definitely going to hear from her tomorrow. Yes.
Stop it! Stop.
It's really, really bad.
Oh my god, so wait. You used your dog as an excuse to end the dates.
You're too nice, Renee.
Okay, he didn't know it was my dog.
Yeah, but then you said chat soon.
You are going to get a pornographic message from the douchebag by the end of the day, mark my words. Oh, okay. New drinking game. A sip for every "I'll put it on your right" reference.
Ooh, a shot for every ab pic.
2 for every dick pic.
Oh, and if we're still standing, a sip for every come on!
Hey, ladies! I can only stay for a hot sec, so what did I miss? What did I miss?
I was just filling them in on my latest catch.
The salesman who lives with his mom and her boyfriend?
No, scary faux liberal, let's get naked travel guy. Mm-hmm. He is a menace to society, especially to women. You can report that shit to the app,
I was more concerned about how I could get through 5 more minutes and still be civil.
Too nice.
Are you sure you gave him a fair shot? He said he was tired.
Tired of wearing his shirt, maybe.
Maybe he was just having an off day.
Off with a shirt kind of day.
Oh my god.
I think he told me who he was pretty quickly and decisively, and I'm not into it, so why would I waste my time?
Here.
Okay, just making sure. Strike him off the list and on to the next.
This is really tiring. For every date I make, I've swiped away 10 different profiles.
I don't envy you, friend, I will say that.
I remember the search with no fondness.
But you're stuck with your boyfriend, every day. There is no escape.
Why would I want to escape him? We're doing great.
Oh, really? He's not getting on your nerves at all? All those minor annoying habits aren't building up? Come on.
Of course he's driving me nuts, and I'm driving him nuts. But we're adding variety wherever we can.
Ooh, variety? Do tell. I've been married so long, variety is us sitting on different sides of the couch when we do manage to find 2 seconds to watch non-child-friendly Netflix.
Well, we kind of burned out in the beginning, right? Trying to fill every possible moment to counteract the what the hell is actually going on now. Too much sex and bread. Way too much bread. Then there was all this pressure to do something, especially physically. But it ended up being better for us to relax. Date night was actually about talking and not TikToking or painting the apartment. We have a few things we both like, but we also have solo night, which is...
Oh, there goes Bobby.
Oh, I should get going too. I'm gonna go connect with my hubby before he has to go in for his late shift.
Another one?
Yeah, I hate it. It's slightly better now that the baby's getting older and sleeping through the night.
How do you manage it all?
Manage?
You have this super important job that you're rocking. I mean, you got your husband on a different schedule, but you're still great parents together, and you manage to show up with lip on and wine in hand. I don't know. It's amazing is all.
Oh, honey. I am no pinnacle of womanly perfection. Trust me. Yeah, lip on, wine in my hand, and dried up milky toddler spit on this otherwise lovely top. It's amazing that I found clean undies to wear today. Yeah, they were wedged in the sofa with the rest of the laundry that didn't get folded this week. Bonus, that is also where I found the remote. Some days I do not manage, or at least not very well. Some days I just want to hide under that same pile of laundry. It is always the last place anyone looks. and pretend I don't hear all the calls for honey or mommy because I am barely able to manage where's this file or so-and-so's case has been moved up, and then all I want to do is cry. Can't, because there's always another video conference and I can't be seen crying. Can't be a weak woman. Look, honestly, I'm not doing it alone. You all are a part of it. Every time I have to jump off our call to take care of something or can't physically show up for you, I know you still love me and you have my back. That keeps me going. And that makes me lucky, not perfect.
She has the best exit lines.
Right?
Ooh, what the? Damn it. Okay, apparently I've got to go now too. Come on!
Drink!
Happy hour is dwindling to happy 15 minutes.
Sorry, Renee, it's Bobby. She's having a whole tech meltdown. They're doing some kind of virtual art class thing in a few minutes. Why the boyfriend can't do basic Wi-Fi troubleshooting? I don't know. Useless. Why do we have partners anyway? I'll try to hop on later if I can. Insert clever exit line here. Bye!
Bye! So, who is our contestant on your dating game? The next one.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Why not? I was ready to dissect a profile for like another hour. Tell me about the next guy. Maybe he's it.
It's not likely though, is it?
Well, is he hot at least? Jackass. Mr. O was a jackass. But don't rule out the possibility of a little X-rated movie time with someone decent, right?
That what you're doing in between in-person visits?
I've been getting pretty creative with my camera angles lately. Oh, and this girl introduced me to app-controlled toys, and her timing was just, So I am looking forward to a repeat performance in person when she's ready for that.
What about when you're in person? Don't you worry that you'll get sick? Are you really willing to risk your life to get laid?
Do I need to go over all the things again? Okay, that's fine. I get tested every week. We use condoms and dental dams, and I've even worn a mask. So, yeah, there's been articles all about this, even right down to the lowest risk position, and I've tried them all.
Okay.
Did you know that having sex can have less risk than kissing? Right? So, I have been judged pretty harshly. I get it, but it's not like I'm some asshole sleeping around with with complete disregard for anyone else's safety. I am just making my decisions as I go, informed decisions, and informing my partners. And that's kind of all I can ask from them too. Right?
Yeah, and I didn't mean it that way. I keep thinking about growing a relationship like that. I don't even have the words. I can't imagine having sex with a mask.
Be creative. Phone sex, video sex.
Which is
Sexting.
fine in the short term.
Renee, this is the short term. We're not going to be in a pandemic forever.
Does it help with the loneliness?
Sometimes. Not every time. But you are putting the cart before the horse. So if you find someone you want to have sex with in person, we will deal with it then. Until then, you just gotta focus on meeting someone because your Zoom track record is 0 for 3, my friend.
I do seem to be attracting some interesting prospects, aren't I?
I mean, people are problematic.
Yeah.
You just gotta know which problems you're willing to take on. And you might not find one anytime soon. Are you gonna be okay with that?
God, Sally, thanks for the optimism.
No, I mean, are you gonna be okay just being you?
Okay with just being me. Okay with me. I mean, of course I'm okay with myself. I'm smart. I'm hella funny. I'm sexy. I'm a badass boss at work. I write thank you notes, for God's sake. That's not what she meant, though, is it? I did everything right from what I was told. I went to school, I worked, I met new people, I managed to find a great job that I actually like and that I'm actually good at, and I've been open. I even dated a guy once who was a vegan and a dad. That, my friends, is an open-minded dating game. I did all the things that I had control over, and it still doesn't feel like enough. All I want is simple. Someone who is kind and smart, who wants to laugh and be in love. Is that really too much to ask? My friends have that. What's wrong with me? I want the next step, the engagement photos, the wedding, the marriage, the kids, the home full of family, the completion of the list. The list is what I want. Or what society tells me to want. Be partnered or be left behind. When is your happy ending? You're getting old. Your eggs are drying up. Damn. That is lonely. But if I move away from this idea of want to face what it is I actually need, I need to believe that my life is valid even when I don't have the list complete. There is no deadline for gaining these things. But I'm tired of feeling like I'm less than because I don't have someone. I'm tired of the narrative that there is something wrong with me. I know who I am, and a woman who knows who she is should be celebrated. No more games. No more questions. I am worthy. And I don't need to complete this imaginary list that I never signed up for. I am okay being me. That feels better.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite the cast back onto the stage, our virtual stage, really quickly, and have Courtney, our co-playwright, introduce everyone and say a few words. Courtney?
Hello, everyone. Hello, cast. Thank you so much. We have this amazingly talented cast. We have Maya Carter playing Renee, Sabrina Jacob playing Cadence, Sarah Mish playing Cynthia and Mr. Youth. We have Princess Jacob playing Bobby and Mr. Sales, and we have Sammy Griffith playing Sally and Mr. O. Thank you again. Big round of applause for all of you. I just wanted to take a minute and quickly thank this amazing cast of humans for this work. Your talent is incredible. I'm so sad that it's only been 3 days of getting to watch you and work with you, but that just means we'll have to do this again sometime. I also want to thank our behind the scenes crew, Al and Wes. Thank you so much for all the work that you do for Elevate and all the work you've done with us, supporting us this week. And I also, of course, want to thank the entire Elevate family, especially also Christina. I'm so happy to have partnered with you on this project and to be invited onto the stage for Elevate. I've enjoyed learning from every winter series that we've had so far, including this one. I've learned a great deal through this process, and I cannot wait to see what Elevate has in store for all of us. So just a big round of applause and thank you again for having this space for us to connect with everyone here as part of the production and everyone that is watching us as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Oh, this is so, so awesome. Courtney, couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for that. I'd love to transition us from the show and the storytelling moment into our panel discussion. So I'd love to invite all of our panelists onto the stage, and we'll see all of our artists in a little bit. So thank you so much. Welcome, panelists. Thank you for being here. I would love to do a quick round of introductions so that way we can all know who's on the Elevate virtual stage together with us tonight. Just giving us your name, what organization you work with, and any kind of reactions you might have from tonight would be great. I would love to start with Dr. Donica Moore, please.
I am delighted to be making my Elevate stage debut tonight. I am a women's health physician. I am here representing the American Medical Women's Association, where I am a member of the board of directors. I am the podcast host for In the Ladies' Room with Dr. Donica, where we did do an episode on pandemic sex. So this was very relevant to that. We also did an episode on pandemic anxiety, and this was very relevant to that. I thought it was terrific. This concept of Zoom dating is completely foreign to me. But I think the question that was raised by Renee's situation, I love her wrap-up monologue. That was terrific, on point. The next time I audition for something, I'm using that monologue. But I think the issue is what the difference is between being lonely and being alone, and if those two things have to be the same. And what's interesting is what she does. She does what a lot of women stereotypically have done, certainly my generation, is feel like they have to have a partner before they feel like they know what they're signing up for or what they really want, and sort of answering the calls of what they feel the societal expectations are, as opposed to what their own needs, wants, and desires are.
Absolutely. Oh, we're going to dive into that. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Martha Kempner, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Martha Kempner. I'm a writer and a sexual health expert. I'm here on behalf of ASHA, the American Sexual Health Association, who I do some work with. And I also write a weekly newsletter called Sex on Wednesday that goes over all of the news stories about sex that are happening this week, because there's always some. Actually, there's always many. And the play was a lot of fun. I thought Sally had some pretty great advice on pandemic sex. I'm not sure, you guys are going to ask me about it. I think she had it pretty much covered, but we'll talk about it a little bit more, I'm sure.
Whereas I'm totally opposed to almost everything Sally said.
Well, that's good. We'll have a healthy debate.
We have a very healthy interchange about
that.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you so much. Welcome. Kelly Meisenbacher, will you please come and introduce yourself? Come off mute.
Hi, and that's nice to meet everyone, and I've really enjoyed watching this play. As Dr. Moore pointed out, the ending monologue really hit home for me, and I'm going to talk a lot about values today, so I just want to point out the three I heard her say, which were kindness, humor, and intelligence. And I am a therapist out of New York City. Mostly I work with LGBTQ people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Kelly. We're really excited. And Sharon Frazier, thanks for joining us again. We're so excited.
I'm happy to be here. So for everyone who does not know me, hi, I am Sharon. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a private practice, and I've done community mental health really my whole career. So those are people who are diagnosed with severe mental health challenges like schizophrenia and bipolar. That's been my career. And the play was great. I mean, I really liked it. It's obviously COVID has been, I'm saying has as if this is past tense. This is has and is and continues on forever. It seems like, so it's super relevant. And obviously I think we'll keep talking about that in monologue there. but it is very true for a lot of the pressures that especially women feel like they are not complete unless they have a romantic partner. So I'm definitely happy to dive more into that as we go on.
Wonderful. Awesome. Audience members, you can feel free to put questions into the chat. We do have a couple questions that we'll get kicked off with, and then we'll start fielding questions from the audience. But I love that we have a healthy debate already brewing on our virtual stage. So I wonder if we could hear from Martha and just hear a little bit about what was salient for you around the sex practices of our character Sally, and then Dr. Donica, feel free to jump in there, and then I think we can have our therapists also give the mental health side of that. So Martha?
Sure. I mean, I think that the advice that public health professionals have been giving throughout the debate is obviously you are your safest sex partner, right? You or someone who lives with you are your safest sex partner. So if you're already exposed to them, if you're not, if you're alone, like Renee was, and like it seemed like many of her friends were, then you have a kind of risk reduction choice to make, right? And so your choices are to, obviously anything virtual is safer than anything in person. And there's some great ways to have virtual sex. I think one of the things I really liked that Sally mentioned in the play was app controlled vibrators. And other sex toys where you can, you and a partner can play without being in the same room, by them having control of your sex toy and vice versa. And so that's technology. I mean, I think that if we all think about the pandemic without the technology that we have today, if we think about it without any of the ability to see each other's faces, even though, I think about the webcam I bought my grandmother when my now 23-year-old nephew was 2, that barely worked and sometimes gave her a still picture of him, right? So thankfully we have the technology that can make us feel a little closer together. FaceTime and Zoom, and there are many platforms where you can have relatively safe, obviously nothing is perfectly safe in terms of privacy concerns. This is, if you're not in the same room, you're not getting an STD, you're not getting pregnant, and you're not getting COVID. But there are privacy concerns that can come up with some of the, we all heard about Zoom bombing early on. WhatsApp and FaceTime are probably some of the safer ones. I did some research and wrote an article on this for Power to Decide a few months ago. So those are pretty good because they're encrypted. So obviously all of those are the safest ways to have sex. In-person sex is riskier because in-person anything is risky right now. But as the New York City Health Department, I think, was the first place to come out with it very comically, made Saturday Night Live, right? Because of what they said, which was the less face-to-face contact that you have during your sex, the safer it's going to be, whether that's wearing a mask or doing it doggy style, right? This is the safer way to be in a pandemic. So again, I think that, the interesting thing is that as a sex educator, I've been talking about risk reduction for years. Now we talk about risk reduction every day. Now we're making risk reduction decisions by going to CVS, right? Or not going to CVS and having groceries delivered. Or so I feel like we're all kind of becoming armchair public health, armchair epidemiologists. And that's what we have to do with safer sex decisions. You have to make a choice, and Sally made hers. Sounds like Renee wasn't comfortable with any in-person sex, and that's fine too. But I think we all have to find our own personal safest place that we can be.
So I misspoke before when I said I was against everything that Sally said. There was one thing Sally said that was right on the money, and that is the most dangerous or most risky sexual behavior is actually kissing. So you are, it's, and in my view, I wouldn't choose to have sex without kissing. That is just, my choice. So I think that's a big issue. I think the other issue is it wasn't clear if Sally's sexual encounters were with people she only met during the pandemic versus people she met before the pandemic who were pre-existing partners. And I think that's the big issue that Renee is also challenged with. is it's very different when you have a pre-existing relationship, even if it wasn't a sexual relationship before. One of the things I've always said is don't have sex with somebody who you don't trust enough or know well enough to trust enough to let you know if they possibly were exposed. Now, of course, I've spent my whole career talking about safe sex. And what's different about this conversation than every other safe sex conversation is that every other safe sex conversation usually had the line about if you have sex with somebody, you're having sex with every person they ever had sex with and every person they ever had sex with in terms of potential disease transmission. Now, if you have sex with somebody who's a new partner, you're having sex with everybody they shared breathing with. And I had a very interesting experience with my partner, who was a longstanding partner before the pandemic, who is an essential worker. So he still goes to the office every day. And I said we had the infidelity of 2020 conversation, where he called me one day and he said, honey, sit down. I just have to tell you this. There's a woman in my office who has been diagnosed with COVID, but I don't even know her name. We never had lunch together. I never spoke to her. We never had a conversation. And, I said, the onus was on me in this relationship as the doctor to say, okay, what I was comfortable with us doing. And the rule became every time somebody at his workplace got COVID, we separated for 2 weeks. And that wasn't because I was so much worried about me getting COVID, but me passing it on to the other people in my household. So, that's another thing that we kind of all have to wrestle with is if you're single and living alone, that's very different than if you are in a household with other people who are depending on you, who you're sharing air with.
That's a great point. So making the best decisions you can, but then incorporating the people around you in those decisions and in how you're making that decision. I love that. I'm curious, Kelly and Sharon, there's a lot of loneliness happening with COVID. And so, Kelly, I wonder if you can talk, Sharon, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about how to combat feelings of isolation during COVID, because I think that's one of the themes that we brought up. And then Kelly, I'd love to talk about, how do we get to know people if we are single and we're not able to, we need to do the Zoom dates, if you will. So Sharon, how do we combat that isolation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment really quick. I really loved something that Dr. Moore was talking about. And as she was speaking, I just heard communicate. And in therapy, that's all I'm telling people to do. Communicate. Communication is good. And communication is this thing that a lot of us run away from, right? And I think just talking about COVID and engaging with people, if we are feeling lonely, it may be hard to have challenging conversations because we're running the risk of actually hearing the real answer and then having to make a decision, right? So if you're having a conversation with someone around, what are your safety practices? How are you doing things? If someone actually says, I've been on a trip to Mexico or I've been doing these other things, then you actually have to make a decision that runs that risk of feeling lonely. And I think that's why people can avoid having hard conversations because you don't actually want the answer. And so just if we can remember how much this is important for our safety to have these conversations, try not to run from them because in the long run, it's going to be good for us. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because as Dr. Moore was speaking, I just heard communicate in my head. And then I would say, as far as combating loneliness, I think the biggest piece of it for me is really, I really try to encourage people to see their lives in the full context. So yes, it may be true that they are without a romantic partner. And it is not necessarily true that they are alone in the world, right? And we put in society so much pressure on romantic love. I don't hear that much emphasis on the personal love for yourself, your pets, your family. Listen, I walk outside and I'm dating the world. Look at the sky, look at the ground, look at the trees here, right? We don't really encourage these grand contextual relationships. So I think one way is just to reframe the way we think about this and really thinking about how do I self-love myself, my personal development, and how am I connected to a whole bunch of things? Whether that's my hobbies, there's just a lot of things that you can have a relationship with that's outside of a romantic relationship. So I think it's just remembering to keep that context.
Well,
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
in the context of a romantic relationship, I think one of the other things that Renee was struggling with, especially in the conversations with Sally, but wasn't articulated, is the difference between sex and intimacy. Now, if you're lucky, your sex partner is also your best friend and you're intimate, and emotionally intimate as well as physically intimate. That seems like something Sally was willing to sacrifice, and that wasn't important to her, or she was ignoring that. Renee was almost there in putting her finger on that, because she didn't want to just jump into a sexual relationship. She wants, the whole package, or thought she did, or thought she was supposed to.
Absolutely. And I think that actually is kind of a perfect segue into Kelly. What you specialize in is thinking about values and vulnerability. And so how can we, think about the difference in different types of intimacy and really bring that home so that we're not feeling lonely. We remember that we can have intimate relationships in other ways.
Sure. So one thing Sharon was bringing up, which, she was also connecting with what Dr. Moore was saying, is that we need to be having conversations, and we can't avoid having hard conversations. Why do we avoid having hard conversations? Is because we're afraid of being vulnerable, right? We see vulnerability. Most people see vulnerability as three things. One, it's a weakness. Two, it's a way that people can take advantage of you. If you're vulnerable, you could be taken advantage of. And three, that vulnerability means giving a lot of information or too much information. And none of those things are actually true. If we can get to a point where we can see vulnerability as an area for strength and growth, we can move a lot quicker through these hard conversations, right? So a lot of what was very interesting. So Candace was the one person who I saw be very vulnerable in that whole thing, right? That little monologue that she had at the end there, right before she tapped out. She was being very open and honest about how she is not just how the connection with her current partner and her kids aren't the only important thing, but the connection with her friends. And she was being so open and honest and true. And you could see, even though everybody's acting, but that's how people react to that. Everyone was like in awe of that. Everyone felt connected to what she was saying, right? So vulnerability we don't need to have necessarily touch. We can have words. We can have even silence. Silence gives you time to be vulnerable when somebody's expressed something to you, giving them space, allowing yourself to feel what they're feeling. It can be a very important part to how we connect to others. So I would say, kind of, and to Sharon's point too, I think it's not only vulnerability with others, but with what's around us. How can we be vulnerable with nature? How can we appreciate nature? How can we appreciate the other things that are around us and be really connected to that? How can we be vulnerable even with ourselves? Another thing that I noticed with Renee is every time she would get on a Zoom call with somebody, is she would say, I'm doing well, I'm doing good, I'm doing fine. And maybe that's a good time to be COVID has given an opportunity for us to be vulnerable because everyone's going through the same thing. So if you can get on a call and not be maybe too dark, but you could say, today was a hard day, or, even today was a good day because of this, and I haven't had this in a long time, right? And so can we be a little bit more honest with the people that we're meeting, even if it's on a first meeting? I think that there are ways we can introduce other emotions besides fine and good.
That is fantastic. Martha, you had something you wanted to add.
I had my hand up. I think I really like what you're saying about vulnerability, and I want to go back to our conversation about safe sex, because I want to make sure that when people are making themselves vulnerable, we're not being too judgmental. Because I fear Dr. Moore, you brought up the whole when you sleep with someone, you slept with their, everyone. I have hated that since I was a peer sex educator in college, because, there was somewhere who put out an app, and they told me that, my risk was like I'd slept with 15,000 people. I'm like, I've been in a monogamous relationship for 25 years. I do not have the risk of 15,000 people. Your math is off. And even so, your ultimate message is you're having too much sex. And I don't want us to do that to people. I think
the follow-up is always, if you have sex with one person one time, you can still get HPV.
Absolutely. But the what we don't want to say is, so don't have sex with one person one time, or don't have sex with 3 people, or don't, right? We want to say, be careful and be safe. And here are the ways that you can be safe. Here's the safest way that you can do it. And I think we risked, even in the play, a little bit. Sally was clearly the person who was taking the most risks. And we were a little bit judgmental of Sally, which is okay. I think that we can be, especially in this time when the risk she's taking can actually impact so many people around her, right? The difference with STDs normally is that the only 2 people who are really at risk in that moment are the 2 people who are having sex. This is a little bit different, but I think we still have to be careful, because shame does not motivate anybody, and it doesn't motivate anybody to be safe. And it's probably not going to stop Sally from having sex with these people, but it may make her feel really terrible about it afterwards, which is obviously not the kind of healthy sexuality that we want.
Who made the comment before? Was it you, Christina, or was it you, Martha, who said the thing about we all have to be armchair epidemiologists? So the problem with the COVID situation, there's a million problems, but the number one problem is because this is a novel virus. We didn't come into this pandemic with a whole body of knowledge about the risk and the transmission and the transmissibility and the infectivity and et cetera. So we were learning as we were going along, but there is some information that we do know that we're pretty clear about. And so I want to be very clear that what I was reacting to about Sally was not so much her behavior as her absolute certitude in false information. So she thinks that by getting tested once a week, or once every other week.
I was going to say, can you tell us what that false information is so that we can have our audience know what that looks like?
The testing thing is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the whole coronavirus pandemic. If you get tested, all that is a snapshot of 82% to 90%, depending on the test that you have, certitude of what your status was at that moment in time. That does not reflect what happens when you walk out of the testing center and get exposed to someone. So that is the problem. It's a false sense of security if you test negative for that. Now, I know we have a lot of actors here. My daughter's on a weekend show, and she gets tested 3 times a week, including a rapid test right before she goes on set. That's a different story, because then when you're getting tested 3 times a week and you're getting a rapid test right at the last minute, even though that's only about 80-something% reliable, it tells a longer term picture. Still not great, but it's the best solution that people could come up with. So that's a fallacy.
That's really helpful, Dr. Moore. And
Martha,
then the thank you for
thing.
What was that?
And then the doggy style, positioning thing is, unless you're both 10 feet tall, even in that position, you can't be 6 feet apart.
Got it. So doggy style plus a mask. Let's add that in the mix. Martha, we do have a question in the chat. So Martha, go ahead. 2 masks, you said. Double mask it, everybody. Double mask. So one question that we have from our audience is, how can we continue to enjoy our lives if we're stuck inside all the time? And how can we enjoy our partners if we're stuck inside all the time with them? So we did have Bobby, the example of Bobby, who's stuck with her boyfriend all the time and talked about kind of burning out at the beginning. I wonder if Sharon or Kelly want to speak on, the burnout that people are experiencing with their partners or with their families at this moment because we're so stuck inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I could say something to that. The thing I hear often are people need to just switch up the routine. So it's important to have structure in our lives, but people are getting tired of the same structure, right? So there are, so for example, I tell people, let's say you're running, maybe each week you have a different running challenge. Maybe one week it's a sprint challenge, maybe one day is a distance challenge, maybe it's, something like that, right? So just finding like ways to switch up the routine. Another thing I tell people is really like, because we're at home, we almost have to compartmentalize our spaces for like different times. So I tell people like when they're done with work, like actually turn off the computer. My favorite thing is 5 breaths before you do like a new activity. So just take your breath and then transition into the new activity. Like you are now mentally transitioning into like the next thing. And another thing that I would say is, which is really important, it's in life. It is very easy for us to focus on what we can't do. So anybody who comes into my office, it's a lot of depression around, I can't do this, I can't do this, I feel these roadblocks. And a lot of my job is really trying to get people to think about what they can do. You can do something, what can you do? And so, especially for COVID, because our lives are so limited now, there's cans flying all over the place. There's just a can't there, a can't there, a can't there, right? And so it's really trying to go through those can'ts, and there is something that you can do. And so I think that's like the main focus. And so yeah, so as far as like the partners are concerned, I think it's just really having communication, because that's all I was thinking about, communication, having those honest conversations about this is my experience, and then how do we do this together? And that's just a very good advice for couples. Is usually when people are at conflicts, it's I do this, you don't do this, I do this, you don't do this, right? So really for couples, it has to be the problem, right? So we're not the problem. The actual problem is pandemic, our lives in a pandemic, right? So then you get this couple together and it's really we as a unit, how do we combat that issue of how we function in a pandemic and get on the same page? So, hey, I leave at this time when you take a break, or however people want to negotiate that for themselves. So yeah, that's what I would say.
That's awesome. Thank you. Kelly, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I could definitely add to that. To add to that, I would say another conversation to have or something to talk about is what's important to you. So what do you value? What do you need in that moment? And so like Sharon's saying, there is a lot of can'ts. So actually I would say, let's take those things that you can't do. What did you need from those things? So for example, I like to rock climb. I'm a climber. It's not something you can do during a pandemic. And so what did I need from that? I needed a community. I needed to feel a sense of community because that's what that creates for me. And I also needed some form of exercise that makes me feel strong. So I actually joined a local gym group or physical fitness group, and they do Zoom classes live, and it feels like a family, and it kind of gave me what I needed in that situation. And so what's going on in the relationship that you need or that you value, and you probably haven't had that conversation. A lot of people, when they're looking for relationships or they're in relationships, they talk about goals, right? What's the next thing we have to do in this relationship? But I would, encourage people to talk more about what's important to you. As I said in the play, Renee talked about kindness and humor and intelligence, right? I can think of 3 or 4 ways in each of those things you can bring into your relationship during a pandemic, right? If intelligence is important to you and both of you, maybe read a book or, read an article from the New Yorker and talk about it, right? And so how can you bring these things that are important to you in a relationship into something that's tangible during a pandemic?
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for these amazing perspectives. We have another question from the chat that is really around vulnerability. Back to you, Kelly, but I think everyone could probably speak on this in one way or another. How can we cultivate healthy, vulnerable relationships when our interactions are completely different now? how do we do that virtually? So I'd love to hear from you how you're encouraging your clients to find that virtually. And then I wonder, Martha, if you could talk a little bit more about those virtual sexual encounters that you wrote the article on.
I would say, start slow, start easy, start with something easy. Vulnerability is really, really hard. So some of the most vulnerable things are going to be hard to kind of start with. One area where we can all start is that we're all going through COVID. So we all feel something right now. We all feel some kind of either sadness or fear, or we're feeling kind of just like the trudge of the day to day. So it's easy in a sense that like we can all be honest with each other in that, and anyone you talk to is going to understand what you're going through. And so I would say, opening up that way, listening a little bit more, listening to the other person, can be helpful, and kind of repeating back what they're saying and validating. And when they share, you can share, right? So when somebody else is sharing, that kind of gives you the opportunity to feel like you can share, and maybe, open up that void a little bit, and not just be so not to be so afraid of vulnerability. You're going to fail. There will be a point where vulnerability doesn't feel good. It hurts. That's where the growth is, though. That's where the growth happens, right? So that's where we learn, maybe, this person, don't talk to those things about with, right? Or not even giving too much information. So one thing I do, because I'm a therapist, I can't go around talking about all my clients if I've had a difficult session with a client. But what I'll do is I'll text one of my close friends, and I'll be like, I had a hard session with somebody today and I'm feeling quite sad. Can we get on the phone and just talk about nothing? Like, can we just talk about nothing? And she can respect that I can express that I feel sad, and she'll just be like, yeah, let's get on the phone. I'm sorry you're feeling shitty today. And she usually comes with something hilarious that just kind of, gets me laughing, and we end up having a 3-hour conversation. So there's so many ways I think we can practice vulnerability, again, without giving too much information, but just acknowledging and stating how we feel.
That's fantastic. And I think in the show, the Gal Pal pandemic happy hours were really, was it GPPHH? That was an opportunity, I think, for that moment, and how, you all highlighted it so beautifully that Cadence had that moment. So, we can kind of definitely push through and have these moments. I love the idea of not even having to talk about what happened, but let's get on the phone and talk about nothing. So thank you for sharing your experience. Martha, tell us a little bit about some apps.
Okay. So I think, it's really just about the apps that connect you, right? That they connect you for. So we're on Zoom now. We could be on WhatsApp. There are obviously some others. I think, truthfully, from a technology standpoint, your safest is to do something on your phone. The safest in terms of nobody being able to record it easily. So would be to be on your phone's iPhone. FaceTime is probably the best for that in terms of technology safety. And then I think the interesting thing is that Zoom and Face, it all gives us it makes us vulnerable, right? There's a vulnerability in being on camera that's very different than when you're in a dark room with another person, right? You are certainly vulnerable when you're having sex with somebody together, but there's a different kind of vulnerability. You're seeing different angles of yourself that you may or may not like. You're seeing different angles of them. And so I think my advice on that would be, like everyone has said here, I think Sharon was the one who said communicate, communicate, communicate. So my advice would be to start with talking a lot to whoever this partner is, no matter, whether you knew them pre-pandemic or not. And then taking it slow. I think we forget as adults that, the first time somebody has sex, they probably fooled around a little bit first. They probably did, they didn't necessarily get naked right away. Like when we're talking about 15 and 16-year-olds and you're experimenting with new sexual behaviors, you start slow. And so start slow, and maybe even start with good old-fashioned phone sex. Turn your video off and just do something audio with sex toys, and you're both doing it at the same time. And then see if you like that, and take it to the next step, and really just open those lines of communication and say, that was really fun, or God, I was really embarrassed by that. I really hate looking at myself on camera. This isn't something I want to do again, but maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do the app controlled sex toys with just talking to each other. So I think there is a different kind of vulnerability with video sex, but I think it is something that people are finding filling the gaps for now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sharon, and then I want to do a quick round robin to kind of start wrapping our evening.
Yeah, and I just wanted I just wanted to piggyback on Martha. I really liked what was said there. When we are kids, a lot of us have a lot of room to cry and say we are fearful, I am sad. We can let that out, right? And then as we get to be adults, we are taught that like a lot of times, like we kind of have it all figured out. Like we know what's going on, and we don't always. So I think that's what makes vulnerability hard, because we're supposed to like know everything. And so COVID and this pandemic really creates a very unique opportunity for it to be okay to say, I don't know. I actually don't know, right? Like I don't actually have it figured out. So exactly what Martha's saying, like when you're having this weird angle, you're like, oh, I'm not used to myself at this angle, right? Like, because you're seeing yourself I don't know about everybody else, but I kind of have like my selfie angle, right? And then anything outside of this selfie angle, I don't know what's going on. I'm confused, right? So yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that like when we're younger, in a lot of ways, we are encouraged to, that it's okay to be fearful. We can say it out loud. As adults, we don't always have the opportunity. And I think we can say, I don't know, because this is a time that we just don't know. It's just been an interesting time for all of us. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you so much. That's actually been a salient point, I think, from each of you, that, we make the best decisions with the most informed information that we can. But sometimes we don't know. And so we go forward and we expose that vulnerability. And I think that that's so lovely that is shining through in each one of you, and how you've shared with our audience today. I'd love to wrap us up with a call to action. Usually at the end of our programs, we like to give our audience one thing from each panelist that's a tangible next step. Like maybe you want to focus on those who are partnered. Maybe you want to focus on an individual who might be single. Whatever your call to action might be, I would love to start sharing that with the audience, so that way they can hang on to one thing at the end and say, you know what, I may not know, this world is crazy, but I can at least move forward with knowing this one thing, or having this advice from the experts that we have today. So Dr. Moore, I'd love to start with you and your call to action.
I think the call to action is to address the title of your play. It's just being you. What is it that you need now within the context of whatever interactions you have? I think the caveat I would give to everybody who's listening is that everything we said all depends on everything. It all depends on, what your relationship is, who you're living with, what your past is, what your goals are, what your future is. There was a line about somebody said their eggs were drying up. And I made a note to check if freezing eggs has increased during the pandemic. But I think that everybody should just stop and take a minute and say, where am I? And where am I in my relationship? Are there things that I need to change about me? Are there things I need to change about my relationships, whether they're sexual or platonic or friendship or familial? Many of my peers have had their adult children move back in with them, which is a whole nother level of stress and a different dynamic. So what is it that needs to change because of what you need? And what is it that needs to change because of what you want? And then, of course, what we always say to everybody is you can't control anybody else's decisions, choices, growth. You can only control you, hopefully. And sometimes I can't do that.
That's very helpful. Thank you, though. We did get another question in the chat, and I wonder, Sharon, if you can address it through your call to action. The question is, if you are single and you have these moments of extreme loneliness, what can you do? What coping mechanisms can you provide? I think your call to action speaks to this a little bit.
Yes. Actually, I will tell you what I have done personally multiple times as a single person in this pandemic. When I tell you, I've had to keep telling myself, don't assume that the path you are, like, there was a better path. Like, so sometimes when we are on a different path, we always assume that the path not taken would be better. We always assume that. And so what has really helped me in this pandemic is, and I think the play actually illustrated that, like even the one with the partner and the partner and the kid, it's still a thing, right? And if you're single, it's a thing. And just having faith and a belief that like you are on the path that like you're supposed to be on. And one of my favorite sayings, well, I always shout out my mama, but my mom, I got this from my mom, but she said, what happened was supposed to happen because that is what happened, right? And just always remembering that. So that's how I've been handling, this. I'm a therapist, but I'm just telling you personally, Sharon, that's how I've been doing it. So just having that mind frame. And so the call to action is going back to that can thing that I was talking about, but keep thinking about what you can do to be the best version of yourself. And remembering that you are already in a forever relationship with yourself. Again, something that we don't talk about. And I think about if I spent as much time on myself, like I have thought about these partners, I'd be on a whole so the moral of the story is keep thinking about what you can do and keep future planning because there is a future beyond pandemic. So it's not going to end here. We have lives to live outside of here. Keep future planning, keep thinking about what you can do and reframe your thoughts of it's going to be okay. Just stay connected to yourself.
Thank you, Sharon. That's great. So what can you do? Audience, think about that too. Kelly, what is your call to action?
So I would say, coming back to values, find out what your values are. What's important to you here? Not your goals. I don't want to hear, I want to be dating, I want to get married, I want to do this. It's what's important in those things. What do you need? Do you need, again, kindness, humor, intelligence was the one I hear. What's important for me, what's important is feeling connected in everything that I do, in my fitness, in my relationships, in my work. Being connected is a really important value of mine. So find out, what are your 5 kind of foundational values? What do you need as you're walking through life? And where can you find that in this time?
Fantastic. Thank you. And Martha, last but certainly not least, what's your call to action?
So I think building off of what everyone else said, from a sex standpoint, try not to let sex just slip away. Think about it. You might not want any right now, and that's okay. But I feel like we are so stressed out. I think that I don't have little kids anymore, but I have kids at home, and I think I can relate to the stepping on Legos, which I did for years, and the feeling like you pulled in 7 different directions. And I think we often, when we're partnered, let sex go when it gets really, really stressful in the world. And then I think when people who are alone during this pandemic may also just let it go and figure out what you need. And maybe that's just like giving yourself an orgasm a couple of times a week, or maybe it's having a partnered encounter. But just try to not forget that is an important part of who we are, and it feels good, and it can actually relieve some of the stress that we're all feeling.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you all so much. This was just the most enlightening conversation. I'm really glad that we were able to directly connect to the show. I'd love to have all of our actors, Courtney, come back on stage so that we can thank you properly for your performance. Thank you all so very much for your time tonight. I'm honored to have you all in the conclusion of the Elevate Winter series. This is the perfect example of what we do. We bring a play about the human condition with a panel of experts and we answer questions. So to my panelists, thank you, Dr. Moore, Sharon, Kelly, Martha. Your expertise was tremendous. We got a few giggles in. We had a healthy debate. I just really appreciate your wisdom and for you sharing it with our audience tonight. Maya and Sabrina, Sammy, Princess, Sarah, what a performance. I am blown away when I see these characters come to life and share these really intimate yet relatable moments. And I truly appreciate your time and your talent. Courtney Bottomley, what a gift you are. Everyone, you don't know this, but Courtney and I have never met in person. So an unexpected, exciting nugget or silver lining from the pandemic is that it has brought us together for not one, but two creative projects and hopefully many more in the future. I'm so glad to have you as a creative partner and a gal pal. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. My backstage team, I can't forget them. Courtney already thanked them, but Alberto, Wes, Maria, thank you so much. This isn't possible without you. So just know that we're so thankful for you helping us with your energy, your support, your technical expertise. It is so very valuable. So although the pandemic didn't spark Elevate Theater Company as an idea or a concept, it did fuel the fire within me to pursue this company in this impossible moment in time. And I feel that public health right now is more important than ever. And I'm so proud to have been able to bring you 4 months of engaging theater and informative public health discussion. We've been building this beautiful, resilient, active arts and health advocacy community. And I'm just honored that you're all on this journey with us. So as part of this journey, we would love for you in the audience to let us know what you think of the winter series. Panelists, artists, you are also welcome to join in this call to action. You have an opportunity to tell us what you think. So we have 2 different things for you to do. One is to go ahead and fill out the survey that is getting dropped into the YouTube chat as we speak. Take a moment to fill that out. It shouldn't take you very long. And everyone who fills it out and opts in will get a chance to win a free prize in a raffle. So that's kind of exciting. The second thing is in March, we will be hosting a set of focus groups for our audience and our panelists and our artists. This feedback would help us refine our content for our summer programming, and it'll also ensure that we're really covering the public health topics that matter to you all most. So feel free to sign up for a focus group through the survey link. Stay tuned. There's going to be more Elevate Theater coming to you this summer. The winter series videos will be on YouTube until March 31st. So if you enjoyed what you saw and you want to share it with a friend, your family, if you want to watch your favorite episode, feel free. It'll be up there for the next month and a half. And finally, if you love Elevate, please go to our website and make a tax-deductible donation. We can't do it without you, our family, our community. Thank you again for being in community with us tonight. You're helping us bring live theater to life in this impossible moment. I want to send love, well wishes, be safe, be well, and elevate. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.